right. Good evening. Welcome to the Parks and Rec Board meeting for February. We'll call this meeting to order.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. We want to remind everyone that people on Zoom that we are having a Zoom meeting and broadcasting on cable channel 25. Please remember to mute yourself during the meeting when you are not speaking. The chat function for this public meeting is disabled. All chats will go directly to me. Unless you are participating during the meeting, please turn your video off. This allows the active member participants to be seen on screen. You will still be able to hear the meeting when you are participating. Please turn your video on. And then if you have any trouble, you can send the chat. The city reserves the right to mute people or turn individual videos off to minimize distractions during the meeting, and I'll turn it back over to the chair.
Thanks, Roger. Our first agenda item is to approve the minutes from our January meeting. Are there any comments, questions, amendments?
And
I move we approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Great.
Lisa?
Aye.
Okay. And you can have your video on if you would like.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining, Lisa. Okay, our next agenda item is public comment. Is anybody here for public comment? Is there any public comment online?
No, there is not, but oh, wait. Okay, that's Lawrence Times. Yeah, we did have the item that we added to the agenda that I sent out the update for, so hopefully you all saw that. Okay.
Thank you. All right, moving on to our first agenda item. I believe Corey Wallace will be presenting.
Good evening. It's a beautiful spring day in Lawrence, Kansas. Let's hope it lasts. My name is Corey Wallace, and I serve the city and its community members as the Director of Communications and Community Relations. And some of you have seen me in a number of different conversations. I think most recently I was here to talk about the Outdoor Aquatic Center. Yeah? Okay. So tonight I'm talking about something a little bit more low stakes, lighthearted, and I wanted to extend an invitation to this group to participate in this experience. I'm going to just tell you a story about living in Lawrence. I was born in Lawrence and was adopted quickly thereafter. My parents moved me to Kansas City, Kansas. And so I was raised most of the time in Overland Park. But I came back here as soon as I could. That's a familiar story we hear from a lot of Lawrencians. I got back here as soon as I possibly could. For me, it was grad school. Then I got a job and moved around a little bit, and then met the love of my life. And it is very, very good luck for me that he lived in Lawrence for 20 years and has raised his kids here. So we are very proud Lawrencians, and I love my job. I love serving the people of Lawrence. One of the things I like to do on the weekends is attend experiences where I have absolutely no practical knowledge of what I'm about to walk into. And I do that because this is a community that thrives on niche activities. We have all stripes and types of people invested in all different types of activities here. And I think that's a hallmark of wellness in a community when you have people that are live action role playing in South Park across the street from my house, people that are going to documentaries about librarians, and everything in between. We have a lot of different varied interests in this community, and I've always found that to be not only appealing, but a part of our central identity as a community. We're proud of that here. I often say when I'm not in Lawrence that we are nerds for good. We're nerds about a lot of different things, and if you have a very special interest in a niche community or a niche activity, you can find somebody here who's just as passionate about that. I went to a film screening sponsored by the Lawrence Art Center. It was a Final Friday film screening, and they do these every month. And it was a documentary called Join or Die. And it's based on the research of Dr. Robert Putnam. Bowling Alone was a very, very famous book that was written in the 1990s. It gained a lot of popularity, and there's been a lot of discussion about how communities build social capital and leverage us knowing each other in close relationship for good. And I was really inspired by this documentary. I attended grad school at the University of Kansas. We talked a lot about Dr. Putnam's work, and I never thought that there would be an opportunity for me to leverage his learning and that data in data expansion here in Lawrence. I have a theory, and the theory is data-backed by Dr. Putnam's research and the folks that have extended his research beyond the early 90s. People in the United States still are trending downward in joining things. We have a lot of joiners, and we can build more. If there's a community, a lot of people talk about community capacity. What does a community have a capacity to do? And the capacity expands when we are in healthy relationship to one another. The data indicates that it doesn't matter what people are doing as long as they're doing it together. And what we want to do is provide practical opportunities for people to join things and find community. And I knew immediately when I watched this documentary that PRC is a huge part of the fabric of that work. Parks, Recreation, and Culture is an opportunity for people to leave their homes and gather together to learn something or to share an experience together. And that's powerful for a community. If you feel part of a community, you will care about that community. If you feel a part of that community, you will care about that community. Now, I'm standing in front of a bunch of joiners. You guys have already opted to join a number of things. That's why you're here. I saw Ruth that night at the documentary, and I was like, this is a sign. This is an absolute sign that one of our top joiners, yet again, is spending her Friday night in community with other people. I believe that the city has an opportunity where we need to expand and create an environment of trust. And that has been something that has been really challenging, not just for Lawrence, for, everywhere in the United States these days. I think trust is at an all-time low. People's trust for institutions is at an all-time low. And I've just decided that I cannot be a dealer or steward of trust if I can't invite people to healthy activities and help them to connect with people that they do trust. If they don't trust me, Corey Wallace, I want them to trust you. And I want you to trust those that you're in community with. We can steward trust amongst our community. I just need to build more opportunities for trust to grow. So I'm asking people to kind of come along with me and learn more about this theory. Here's the formula that we are betting on. The formula is this. I know people in my community, thus I know my community, thus I like my community. We are taking steps to measure in our community satisfaction survey, which has 6 more days of accepting data. If you receive one at your home, please fill it out. We have the goal of measuring how many neighbors do you know by name. And I have a theory that if we measure that over a period of 5 years, we can do the work to create more third spaces for people to meet others and find community amongst them. I want to leverage social capital in a community that's just under 100,000 people. There's power in being just under 100,000 people. And especially when a group of those people, 2 groups, actually 3 if you include Peasley Tech, have already opted to join a sub-community within our broader community. And they're also partnering that with a learning experience. We have a lot, we are a lot further along in that joining economy than other communities are. We can do more because we are so intimate. Sometimes that intimacy looks like people not knowing who to reach out to. And I'm sure you've been recipients of that energy, where people don't know where to complain or talk through issues. They don't know where to say they're concerned. And when you know someone, or when you know people who are also invested in the same things you're invested in, it feels like you're doing more productive work. And so what I'd like to do is create environments where people feel like they're in productive conversation with others. Our closest ring is Team Lawrence, and you are a part of Team Lawrence. I don't know that anyone's ever said that to you, but we view you that way. If you are a member of our advisory boards, our commissions, you are a part of Team Lawrence. You are the closest ring. You are the people who know the most about the work that we do every single day. But in and amongst our community, we have more than 65 groups that we're connecting with right now, and we've been connecting with them for the last 6 weeks. You will be pleased to know that the pickleballers, yes, the pickleballers did reach out to us, of course. They are going to show up very organized and ready to meet other pickleballers, people who want to learn about pickleballers. But we also have LARPers, we have gamers, we have mahjong players, we have senior activity groups, we have book clubs, we have choirs, we have the civic orchestra. We're hoping to get the band engaged. They are very busy people, those band musicians. But just know that we've been working to connect with groups that we think are open for business and need joiners. We're hoping to attract cross-pollinators who see the value in social capital and bridging the gap in our community. We'd love for you to join us. How do I play a trailer? Do I just go like that? There we go. Can you turn up the sound, please? Because the sound's all the way up here.
Can I play Roger?
You can. Roger might need to adjust.
How about this? Why don't we,
In the share options, there should be a share my, or in the audio.
Yep. Roger, you're going there, right?
I'm trying to.
Yeah, I'll stop moving my mouse.
Clubs. I belong. This is Bob. Bob's a big fan of clubs. I belong to everything.
That's my high school bowling team. I'm the tall one in the middle.
And this is a film about why you should join one and how Bob.
That's weird. It's playing on my screen.
I know, that's so disappointing.
It's okay.
Okay, here we go. Take two. Well, that's better.
Bob's a big fan of clubs.
I belong to everything. That's my high school bowling team. I'm the tall one in the middle.
And this is a film about why you should join one and how Bob discovered that the fate of America depends on it.
Harvard professor and award-winning writer Robert Putnam.
You've been described as the poet laureate of civil society.
Robert D. Putnam, for deepening our understanding of community in America.
He made people pay attention to a concept that most people had never paid attention to.
Social capital. Social capital. Social capital. Social networks have value.
I'd like to call on Professor Robert Putnam, who gave us the concept of social capital.
The number of people who know one another's first name, the number of people who take part in community organizations, the level of trust and reciprocity in the community.
The places that have better government are the places that have a long history of social networks and social capital.
Your chances of dying over the next year are cut in half by joining one group.
Bowling Alone. Where'd you get the title?
I happened to run into a friend who owned a bowling alley, and he said, gosh, Bob, you don't know it, but you stumbled onto the major economic problems facing my industry, because although more Americans are bowling than ever before, bowling is up in America. Bowling in leagues, bowling in teams is off by about 60%. Everything that reflects connections with other people are going down. How many times last year did you go to church? Down. How many times did you go to a dinner party? Down. How many times last year did you go to a club meeting? In barely a couple of decades, half all the civic infrastructure in America had simply vanished. It's equivalent to saying half of all the roads in America just disappeared.
Everyone has a feeling something's happening, but then he's got charts to actually show what's actually happening.
The difference is having the people's sense of mutual obligation, to their understanding about the common good, to their willingness to trust their neighbor, is no longer going on because people are bowling alone.
The book Bowling Alone, which you're familiar with by Robert Putnam.
The activity may still be going on, but there's no social capital being built. That decreases the trust we have in one another. How lonely Americans are, how divided.
You know, he may have been on to something.
We have to see loneliness as a threat to our health security and to our overall national security.
We are trying something that hasn't been done before, which is growing and sustaining a multiracial democracy.
Politics and policy ultimately depends on the social health of our country.
Organization, connections with other people is the only way you get big change.
Democracy is a pain in the ass. If it was just easy, no one would have to go to a meeting and it would all just be fair and easy. You should join, your kids should join, and if there's not an organization you want to join, create one.
America doesn't have to be the kind of America that you've lived in your whole life. You could decide to change history.
So we are hosting a community screening the final Friday of February 27th And alongside that community screening, we are also hosting a connection fair.
I just said it is a quorum call.
You're fine. You're good.
I request that the quorum call be vitiated. Without objection, sorry.
Oh, that's probably an extended, yeah.
Mr. President, once again, let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
Let's face up to reality.
Nope. You're totally good. Thanks, Kurt. So one of the things that you all have really educated me about is the powerful impact, cross-impact of community wellness and well-being on our level of activity, our level of connection with each other, our access to team sports and activity. The data will tell us that alongside physical activity just in community with others, it can be quilting or needlepoint or cards, it can be poker, it can be choir. It doesn't necessarily need to be physical activity, but we do have an opportunity for people to join clubs and leagues and connect with others, and that's why at this event, Lindsay has agreed to do the welcome, because we want to welcome people into parks, recreation, and culture activities. We want to remind them that it's an opportunity for not just them, but for their kids, for their friends, and things are more fun when you do it together. Civic engagement, community awareness, safety and wellness, pride, affinity, optimism, shared values, institutional trust. I'm in the business of building all of those things, and the best way for me to do that is to build opportunities for social capital. I need the lived experience in Lawrence to mirror what we want it to be. And when we tell people about what Lawrence, Kansas is like, I need it to mirror people's lived experience. I think there's one more slide. Yep, here are the details. It's at Free State High School Commons. That's by design. We wanted to have it in a neutral space that felt like you were going back to your high school joining fair. If you choose to join us, and I really do hope that you do, I want you to know that all of the boards and commissions will receive an invitation tomorrow morning. All of our staff has been invited. Our executive team has been invited. Rotary clubs, Optimist clubs, Kiwanis clubs, activities of all stripes and types are being invited to participate. And we would invite you to take a risk, and if you have time, or even if you don't have time, put a new activity in your back pocket for joining later. I'm now open for questions. None? Excellent. Okay, Ruth.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge and thank you and bringing this idea forward. As Corey mentioned, I saw the film, and I don't know if you can tell from the trailer, but it's really, really entertaining. It's really powerful information about how we live in community with one another. And I will plan to be there, and I hope you all come too, because it's really a great film and a great discussion. So thank you, Team Lawrence, for putting this together.
I love the needle you're threading with social cohesion and parks, rec, and culture, and I'm so excited for this.
Thank you. We are too. If you have any additional questions, or you have an organization, club, or activity that you think I need to reach out to, please just shoot me an email or shoot Lindsay an email, and we'll be happy to connect with them. We're doing that daily. So we're excited to see you. Oh, one final thing. We are hoping to, this is not just one and done. There will be activities where we can build social capital throughout our community. And we're going to try some things that are a little wild and different, but we're going to do so because this community demands innovation and experimentation, and we aim to get to it. So thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Did we need to do public comment on that?
Yeah, but I don't know if there is any.
Is there any public comment on that? Okay, great. Thank you.
I want to say something. The last basketball game that played at Allen Fieldhouse, I watched on TV, and I thought the announcers belonged to the Lawrence Chamber of Commerce.
Really?
Yeah. It was incredible. Yeah. I mean, they couldn't stop. Not only how great the stadium was, But Lawrence itself, they were talking about how neat it was. And
Yeah, it was interesting. It wasn't just about Allen Fieldhouse or KU.
Chamber of Commerce Day. They
Yeah.
called it a Chamber of Commerce Day. It was great weather and.
yeah, I mean, it was the first time one of them had been there here, so.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
I have a quick question, just sort of, or maybe just a comment that I want to throw out there. That I actually watched the trailer previously, and I already had this on my radar because it sounded amazing. But in the context of our community centers, I just want to point out that this creation of third spaces, of community-centered spaces, does feel like an opportunity that needs to be front and center in Parks, Rec, and Culture's, I'm going to say responsibility in this conversation. That's something that I would strongly advocate for making a priority. Third spaces that are available to all.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll move on to the next agenda item. Mark, thank you for being here for this.
Am I up?
Here's Mark.
You asked me to give a presentation on the CIP and kind of how that works. And so this is going to be CIP 101. So I want to show you how it works citywide, and then I'm going to bring it down to the Parks and Rec Department and show you where we're at right now. So I like to play this video because Rochelle does a really good job of explaining it. She's our finance director. So this is available on the city's website.
Oh, they're throwing curveballs. Kurt, are you good with that? Yeah. Okay.
The city of Lawrence is evolving, and so are the demands on our infrastructure. That's where the Capital Improvement Plan, or CIP, comes in. The CIP is a long-term planning tool that identifies the city's major capital needs and prioritizes them based on the citywide strategic plan. It helps us look beyond year-to-year budgeting to determine what, when, where, and how public improvements should take place over the next 5 years. This is a separate process from the city's annual operating budget. The CIP looks at every available funding source, including property tax, sales tax, utility fees for water, wastewater, stormwater, and sewer services, to help maximize public benefit and link future improvements with financial resources. In fact, the city has been developing and refining its utility rate models over the past several years in anticipation of these infrastructure needs, preparing today to meet the demands of tomorrow. To be included in the CIP, a project must cost at least $100,000 and result in either the creation of a new asset or the enhancement of an existing one. CIP projects are also expected to improve service quality, reduce the long-term cost of ownership, or upgrade critical infrastructure components. The city uses two main financing methods for these projects: debt financing and cash financing. Debt financing means the city issues bonds such as general obligation or revenue bonds and pays them back over time with interest. Cash financing uses available funds or reserves to pay for the projects up front. Both types of projects are included in the CIP. Cash finance projects and the annual debt service cost appear in the operating budget in the appropriate fund. When our city manager started in Lawrence, he made it clear that our community had long been underinvesting in its infrastructure. Since then, we've taken a systematic approach to getting back on track. We've invested in cutting-edge assessments like LiDAR, video inspections, and detailed mapping to develop long-range plans that address infrastructure problems before they become crises. We've also focused on achieving the lowest cost of ownership, building smarter now to reduce future maintenance cost, and extend the life of our investments. Major projects recently completed or currently underway through the CIP include full corridor rebuilds of 23rd Street, 6th Street, Iowa Street, and Wakarusa Drive, as well as Jayhawk watershed improvements and the construction of the MSO campus. The Capital Improvement Plan represents a smarter, more responsible approach to building the future of Lawrence. Through careful planning, long-term thinking, and strategic investment, we're ensuring that our community foundation is stronger, more sustainable, and ready for what comes next.
I feel like I explained that pretty well. Any questions? So I was going to...
But she didn't explain the difference between a capital improvements plan and a capital improvements budget.
Yeah.
Are you
So-
gonna-
Yeah, that's what I'm going to touch on a little bit. So that planning process she talked about, and actually if you, right below that video, there's a link. If you want to do some creative writing and submit your own CIP project, it's open till this Friday. So we're going through ours right now, trying to update to 27 through 31. So 26 through 30 was approved last year. And then we always look at what needs to move forward to get in the funding derby, basically, is the way I look at it. This one, if I pull up that spreadsheet.
Okay, hold on. Hold Zoom, Mark. Got it?
Do what? Oh, Zoom.
Well, no, you're on Zoom. Is that what you're looking for, that spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay, all right, very good.
How can we get bigger here?
Go to the three dots, top right, choose present. The ones below those three dots, you were real close.
The other three dots?
Yeah, those three dots, yep, yep. What is that? You were so close.
Still not, huh?
Well, I mean, that's real close. Print is a good choice.
So cancel that.
Cancel that, and if you go back, there's 100% up in the very top center, and the plus sign and a minus sign. Press the plus sign.
Hold on, I got to move some things on my screen here.
Line of vision on the screen that you guys can't see.
Yeah. Okay, it's bigger on my screen. Is it bigger on your screen?
Got bigger.
All right. So this is the city's CIP. So this, once you went through that process, all the departments have input, all the people have input, and then they come up with a presentation to the city commission. So as we go forward, the city manager presents the recommended CIP. Okay. This is what it looks like. So if you're looking down this and looking for Parks and Rec stuff, which is what I usually do, the PR is Parks and Rec. So you get MSO, you get fire, you get police, planning. So every one of these pages, so this is a general fund funded page. So you look at what's funded, and then the trick here is look at unfunded. So these projects here were funded. These projects were unfunded. And as you go through this page by page, there's 16 or 17 pages. It goes through each funding source. So some of it's utility rates, some of it's debt related, some of it's, so this one's general obligation debt. So you'll see some of our projects in here. So basically we're usually either in the cash or the general obligation debt. Sometimes we'll get into some of the specialized funds, but not normally. So like the irrigation project at the golf course is being funded through utility rates because it's a utility, it's going to save on water rates coming, so we won't pay for water. So that one's funded in a different source. But the reason I wanted to show this is a very big document, and it's really hard to figure out what happened with Parks and Rec in this document unless you really study it. So what I'm going to show you is a little closer view. So I'm going to try to switch to the spreadsheet. Okay, good. So in the spreadsheet, I've just pulled off the Parks and Rec projects, same information, but you're seeing what's funded and what's not funded. So here in 26, the Outdoor Aquatic Center is funded, so at a significant rate. We had a trail project funded, but it got put on hold because we didn't have the ability to acquire the land for the project. So that funding's there, but the project's on hold. Now we're replacing a mower. So the thing that we always want to kind of look at is 26 unfunded. So these projects all fell to unfunded. Unless I grab them and pull them down to a next year, they'll die there as an unfunded project in 26. It doesn't just keep moving down because 27 has its own set of funded projects, and 28 and 29 and 30. So what we're currently doing is taking anything that was left in the 26 that got unfunded and trying to pull it down to a year that we want to propose new funding. So it kind of shuffles the deck every year, but the goal is to not change what was funded. So what was funded in 26 and 27, we try to leave those there and say, okay, what here really has to happen, or can it just be pushed down to 31? So the last year that has no projects in it right now. It's an odd game, but it works well for the city because we really start looking at huge infrastructure projects. Like we're going to repave 23rd Street. We're going to repave Wakarusa. We're building an MSO campus. We need this fire truck, that fire truck. And, you know, we need to redo the outdoor pool. We want to build turf on fields. So you're kind of understanding how this domino thing works. It's pretty enormous, honestly. And the goofy thing is, in Parks and Rec world, these are big numbers. In MSO world, they're not as big. So, you know, these $4 million projects, we don't do those very often. MSO, that's a road improvement that year after year after year they're working on. So our prioritizations were down here usually in the 100,000s, so 100,000 to $1 million. We have a lot of projects in that range. MSO's projects are usually bigger than that, and they're doing, you know, a citywide infrastructure project. So what we're working on right now is pushing things down. So we know, for instance, right here, the painting of the outdoor pool or the indoor pool was not funded for 27. Well, we know it has to get done. So we have to get that into the funding mechanism. Sometimes that means us taking something that was funded and going, okay, we'll have to do without that so we can get this up. So.
But that doesn't mean it's the budget, doesn't mean the budget is approved for 2028.
Right.
I mean, just because you push it ahead, it's still.
Hey, John, can you lean into the mic so people can hear you? No, it's all good.
Yeah. No, I said what I need.
Yeah, there's the proposal. So 26 budget was proposed, right, with the CIP. And now it'll go into 27. We'll run through the same scenario where here's the operating budget and then here's funding of the CIP based on the CIP plan. So they're two separate things, but first they have to have the plan, then they have to fund the plan every year. So truly us putting projects in 31 doesn't really matter at this point in time other than as a planning tool because it's not funded yet. We're proposing debt and they're forecasting debt out. That's why they put them in all those years and saying, okay, if we do those projects there, and those there, we're okay with our debt. And the same with the general fund funded projects, that there's only a certain amount of general fund projects we can fit into a general fund budget.
So Mark, I see that reconstruct the old 9-hole Albemarle golf course to a public park is unfunded. Oh, I see, it's unfunded, $1.5 million.
Right, and that was actually proposed by a person in the public.
Oh.
So it's kind of interesting because sometimes people will just come up with something and so it goes on our list. It is a Parks and Rec project.
Oh, it goes on.
We didn't actually write it, we didn't propose it, but it comes through as a Parks and Rec project. So it'll sit there unless somebody goes in and touches it and said, okay, that's still a thing, I want to move it down, or it'll just sit there as an unfunded project. It's a funny little game, but.
No kidding.
But what we try to do is make sure we're proposing everything that we think needs to happen and make sure at least gets in the funding derby. It's the way I look at it. So if we don't propose it, the city commission won't know it needs to happen and it can't get prioritized in the funding. So we do our best to keep the list full. So if we go down this list like 28, you're starting to see almost everything is unfunded. So we got one truck funded. 29, we basically have vehicle replacements funded, but no improvements. So, you know, we talked with the pickleball group and wrote a pickleball project for an outdoor pickleball complex. It's in there, it's just down the list and unfunded. So for it to get back up to a feasible project, either somebody's got to grab a hold of that and go, yeah, that's a priority. Let's move that up the list and get it on the funded list. So the current bigger concern, so 30 here, there was no funded projects for Parks and Rec. So that's a concern to me that nothing we proposed was raising to the level of funding. So as we work through the process again this year, we might want to look at some of the scores. So all these projects are scored over here to the right. There's a scoring mechanism that goes through, tries to evaluate each one of these projects versus each other and has criteria that you mark off. So if we're above 20, chances are decent that we're going to get funded. But sometimes the ones down there at 11 and 12 have to happen, like painting a pool you can't just not paint the pool. And we ran into that with the replacement of the turf at the sports pavilion. It was not scoring well, but we were at the end of its useful life, so either we take it out, close it, or we replace it. So those are things that the system works good, but you still have to have a little common sense on it. Questions?
Yep. I have one, Mark, and maybe you can explain who's involved in the process, whether or not it be pickleballers coming to you, say we would like to have a, pickleball comp. How does it become a priority and who makes that decision?
Yeah.
So projects usually will come from groups. So like we work with the farmers market to write their CIP project. And we work with pickleball to write their CIP project. So that's a group coming saying, hey, we really want to do this. How the heck do we do that? So we'll walk them through the here's how. Some people, like the one at Albemarle, he just wrote it himself, which was fine. He was an ex-city engineer, so he was kind of familiar with the project. And then we get some projects in that, hey, we need to replace the playground at Chaparral Park. And, we need more details on that for it to get even thought about as funded. So basically anything could get thrown in here. It's just a matter as it sifts through where it ends up. The scoring is big because that's something we didn't used to do. We've probably used that for 4 or 5 years now, where the scoring starts to delineate what should rise to the top. And it's not a perfect system.
Who does the scoring?
So whoever submits it does the scoring, then it goes through a peer review, which is another huge process that equity and inclusion be evaluated by equity inclusion director. So he'll evaluate all the projects just in that scope. The ADA coordinator looks at the ADA section. The CMed, which is construction folks, look at, is our funding feasible? Is that doable? Is the design money in there? Corey looks at some of the things on public engagement. So I think there's 13 different categories of scoring we do. And then each group peer reviews it, say, yeah, no, Mark, that was ridiculous. What are you trying to do? And adjust my score. Or he goes, oh, wow, Mark, you missed that. Move that up a little bit. So that doesn't happen very often. So once it goes through that, then you get the recommended CIP project. And then it goes into that big list. And then there's a CIP committee, which I'm on, citywide group, goes through them and starts to evaluate how far can the funding go down the list. And then after that, it goes to the city commission as a recommended. So there's multiple steps and layers of it. It's not a great system, but it gets a plan out there.
Does the scoring take into account the want to versus have tos? I mean, it's like painting the pool. Kind of regardless of how it scores, you've got to paint the pool.
Yeah, that's a good question. Maintaining an asset's what I've been struggling with a little bit. So as an example, the sports pavilion's 10 years old, right? So there's 22 air conditioning units on top of that building. In about 5 years, all of those are going to start going down.
Yeah.
So we need to project that. But painting the pool was one, replacing the turf was one. So that's maintenance of an existing asset. It doesn't score it quite as well because
Seems like that would need to score a little higher than social impact per se, or it kind of is a have to.
Yeah, and we try to hit it to the strategic plan. So does it match strategic plan goals? That's one of the first ratings. So if it doesn't match that, then that's a problem. We did add a whole section on asset management into the scoring system because we identified this issue, but it's not weighting some of these high enough to where, once you've built it, you got to maintain it forever. So that's the difficult part. It almost scores newer things a little bit easier.
And Mark, I know in the past, parking lots were a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
Is that still in there, or something as a CIP that you have to put in there $250,000 every year to do a parking lot at Holcomb, or patchwork at Broken Arrow? I mean, there's parking lots all over the community that Parks and Rec are in charge of, and so is that part of the CIP request still, annually, just to fix parking lots?
Right. So we kind of gone back and forth on that. So at one point in time, yes, those were CIP projects. So anything over 100,000, if we were planning to do 250,000 of parking lots, we'd put it in the CIP. Once I started putting that in every year, they said, well, that's a maintenance program. That needs to go in your operating budget. So we moved it over to the operating budget. Then if the operating budget gets cut, then you kind of have that hanging in limbo. So because that's a big number, it's hard to not go there when you're cutting the operating budget. So it's a dilemma because it leaves it kind of hanging in between. And quite honestly, we've struggled with it as a CIP committee. Is it the CIP or is it not really? That's a maintenance item. And, you know, utilities has the same thing. They have a water line replacement in their operating budget. They have a stormwater replacement in their operating budget. So it doesn't appear in the CIP. It's the same with the trucks and vehicles. So any vehicle over $100,000 has to go in the CIP currently. At one point in time, we said, you know what, that's not really a capital improvement. Let's put that in the operating budget. But it gets caught between the operating budget and the capital budget. So.
I have 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that the strategic plan alignment is one of the questions that you have. What about the parks plan alignment? Like, where is that scored? And
yes, that's another one of the categories. Does it have any existing planning document outside of the strategic plan? So yeah, we always check yes.
Okay.
Parks and Rec master plan. When we develop the Parks and Rec master plan, we try to make sure everything we can dream of that needs to go in the CIP is in there.
Okay.
So we can check that off. And look, here it is, here it is, here it is. Very seldom do we get new things that we hadn't thought of through the master plan project, if we did a great job on the master plan. So that was kind of cool with the old master plan we did in 2017. We had about 80% of those things checked off because we had kind of went through it ahead of time. And as we went through 5 years, we started to go, okay, look, a lot of these are done. It's time to update that master plan to shoot us out another 5 or 10 years. So that's an important part internally.
Okay.
And for us to say, yeah, we just made that up. We didn't have it in any documents, but that doesn't happen very often.
Okay. I also think that this agenda item was put on as a possible one months ago because of the loop. And in the document you shared, it looks like the loop is basically, it doesn't look like there's any possibility of funding until this 2030, 2031 possibility.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because the City Commission preferences weigh into this a little bit.
Yeah.
That, you know, some of the past commissioners are very interested in the loop and getting it finished. So you saw every piece of the loop was included in the CIP.
Yeah.
All those things are still there. It's just a matter of prioritization from the City Commission. So it gives notice. If we have 3 people that say, yeah, let's do it, we're going to do it.
Okay.
So it's not me deciding, hey, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Right.
It's more or less the elected officials kind of putting priorities to things. Get your creative writing skills out. You got 4 days. I don't know what you want to put in, but all right.
Any other questions for Mark?
Well, thanks. Appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Any public comment? Sorry.
I don't believe there's any public comment in the room or online.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. Next, we have the nomination of Watson Park for the local historical landmark list.
Right, and Lynn Zollner. Hi, Lynn.
Hello, good evening. How is everybody?
Good.
I'm basically here to answer any questions, and I did right before the meeting have a chance to look at some of the correspondence you received as public comment for this item, and just wanted to clarify that the information that individual is using as the reason for nominating the park was from the applicants that actually nominated the park. Once an application gets submitted, then staff goes through and does research and makes a determination whether or not it meets certain criteria in Chapter 22 to be a landmark on the Lawrence Register. And so what we're looking at now, hopefully, is going to come out on Thursday in a staff report, but we are recommending nomination based on its cultural significance. That's not something we've done a lot with in Lawrence. As a matter of fact, this would be our first listing on the Lawrence Register for cultural significance. And the way the landmark staff report is written is that Central Park is significant for its association with the growth and development of the city of Lawrence as a cultural location for events associated with the growth and development of the city, and as a unique location with physical characteristics that make it an established and familiar visual feature of the city. So it's not just because it was on the original plat. There's also a section in here that may be of interest to y'all as the Parks and Recreation Board. Part of the significance of the park is that it speaks to the city setting aside property for parks and open space, reflecting the Eastern culture represented by the early settlers of the community, and the continued existence of the park as open space reflects the continuing culture of the city to support city parks. There's a part in the nomination also about when the Parks and Recreation, we used to have parks and then we added the recreation and then they combined. I know y'all probably know that history better than I do. But anyway, so that's in the nomination as well as one of those things that the city was looking forward. And so I think at your last meeting you had discussed whether or not you want to write a letter of support, and that's fine if you want to write one. I think that would be wonderful. But if you're not comfortable with that, knowing that the city commission did on a 4-1 vote as the property owner say that they were not interested in landmarking this property. They didn't have all the information that they will have when this goes back to them. And so, you know, they may come to a different conclusion in the future. But that's, I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of that.
Lynn, one thing, when did it go before the city commission, number one? And number two, you're talking about that, the thing that you're talking about is for the historic commission. Is that what that is that you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, you might explain that it's on your agenda as well. Okay, thanks.
Yes, and so it'll be on the February 19th HRC agenda. The only reason it's already been to City Commission is the City Code requires the HRC to make every effort to get the property owner's consent and to make sure that the property owner is aware of the nomination. And in this case, it just happens to be the city that's the owner. And so that's the only reason it's been to the City Commission. They will hear it again. The HRC will read the staff report and make a determination whether or not it meets the criteria for a landmark. And then that recommendation will go to the City Commission.
So what you were reading us just now, we haven't seen, is that correct?
That's correct. It will be published on Thursday in advance of the Historic Resources Commission meeting.
And my other question, I saw that the city was hosting like an open house or soliciting public comment on this. Weren't there some events that were?
Yes, we did hold an open house, and I also went to the Old West Lawrence Neighborhood Association, where they voted unanimously to support the nomination. We held an open house at the library and had, just open to the public. It didn't matter where you live. We had about 22 people there, so for a Saturday afternoon, that's a pretty good turnout for a planning type item. And we only had one person who was not in favor of landmarking the park. The biggest two questions I got were, why haven't we done this before? It just kind of makes sense. And the other one was, while you're considering this, are you considering a name change? And so a lot of people wanted to go back to the Central Park name. So we made it clear that that's not part of this process, but in the future, if somebody wants to bring that up, it's certainly something that the city can consider.
Any other questions for Lynn? Okay. Is there any public comment on this issue?
Well,
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah. And Sam, yeah. Samuel, I think we had the item I added to the agenda, which you received, and I think Samuel's on here too. So go ahead, Samuel.
Hey, thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Sorry, 1 second. One second. Sorry about that. Thank you. Yeah. So I don't know if you had a chance to read my letter or not. The agenda for this item didn't have. It had the it was released 5 days ago. It had the incorrect contact information and didn't have a Zoom link. So I was letting people know about this, but I didn't have the Zoom link to send it. I just wanted to lay it out. But I don't know if you've had a chance to review my letter. And I really just, something I've noticed in conversations about kind of historical values is that sometimes it can be kind of used as a cudgel, where it kind of closes down conversation as opposed to starting up conversation. And so that's kind of why, but my big request for transparency was hold on one second. Was just that I gotta go. It would just be great if we could hear people's kind of motivations for why they want to nominate the park. And thank you so much. And thank you for your service. And have a good night.
Okay. Thank you, Samuel.
Any other public comment? All right. Is there any interest in?
Yeah, I'd like to. It seems to me that this all goes back to the idea of the farmers market. Mm-hmm. And what is, in retrospect, what's really frustrating to me is that they decided that it has to be downtown. So the fact that it has to be downtown limits, obviously limits what we can do. When we went to the last public meeting, and we heard from like Art in the Park, that she almost went off the rails. She was so upset, like, how are we going to do these things at the same time? You're going to have events, all the events that are already planned for South Park, and now it's going to be this, that, and so on and so forth. And that's all because the group decided they have to be downtown. And so that's frustrating for me, because I've been thinking, I'm on the North Lawrence, the corridor study, and I was thinking, the old Tanger Mall out there, man, we could make that into a park and a big event space, and could be, there's so many possibilities with that, but we're kind of locked into this whole thing because the farmers market has to be downtown, according to the farmers market.
Yeah, and it's also kind of ironic because virtually no businesses are open Saturday morning other than if you got to go get coffee and a donut or something. So it's not like it would be impacting major retailers downtown if it was not located downtown.
Anyway, I don't think there's much we can do about it at this point.
Yeah, I'm unclear on what our role would be in terms of if the commission has taken it up and if the historic commission is taking it up. I'm not sure where we fall in that.
Yeah,
you can help.
Historically, and Lynn, correct me if you want to turn your camera back on, what's typically happened when there was something that came that's about a park, or even Mark, if you have the history here, whenever there's been some historic type thing that's happened, it always comes to the Parks Board first to be the first, yes, this is what we want for our parks. And then it would go on to the Heritage Commission for their approval, and then on to the City Commission. So this was always kind of the first step whenever it was something about a city park. Or I'm even trying to think, did we do some downtown? No, I guess that was the Heritage Commission, the downtown, where people were, the markers downtown that we were talking about the one time. I may be getting confused when I was on a committee is what I was thinking.
Well, and when we did Hobbs Park and Clinton Park and South Park, we did come to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board and the Parks and Recreation staff, because what you don't want to happen is if for some reason the board or staff thought that this was in conflict with the Parks and Rec Master Plan or what the vision was for city parks, that you would want to learn that early in the process and have that alongside of the historic significance. So as you have that continuum of community conversation, you can have everything laid out. So it's not, well, I wonder if this meets Parks and Recs, plan or things like that. So you can have, how it affects Parks and Recreation Master Plan, how it affects historic things in the city that we want to protect, and then ultimately the city commission gets to weigh all those values and make a determination.
And Lynn, the one thing I would ask is, within the things that have come before the Heritage Commission that have been brought to Parks and Recreation in its old existence, they were coming on its own. It wasn't because of some other force outside of, South Park or something was going to be placed in South Park that basically created the somebody saying they wanted to have that designation, right? It was more of, let's designate South Park. Is that what I'm understanding too? From a historical standpoint?
Yes, I think that's true for South Park, and I think that's true for Clinton Park. I think with Hobbs Park, there was always the goal at trying to elevate the history so that it would be eligible for the Kansas Register and hopefully some grant funding and rehabilitation funding. So that one actually did have not an ulterior motive, but another reason other than just the historic significance, which certainly it has. And I just want to remind everybody that just because something is listed on the Lawrence Register, it doesn't protect it. It doesn't stop development. It doesn't stop projects. What it does is it creates a community conversation so that the preservation or the history of a place or an item can be taken into consideration as that development happens, or it gives the community something to weigh. Should this development happen in this way, or is there a better way for this development to happen because we have this historic significance associated with this place or this item? So, I know a lot of people think, oh, if it's historic, you can't touch it. Well, we've we've done plenty of touch into the Carnegie Library and South Park and all other places that the city owns. And, right now we're talking about ADA accessibility into the community building. And so certainly that's going to change that building, the way it looks. So it's just putting that historic significance on a playing field so that 30 years from now, we don't look back like some people do for the Santa Fe Depot in East Lawrence and say, wow, I can't believe we lost that. So it's just really, it's about that community conversation.
Any other thoughts, discussion?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it being on the register necessarily, but I do feel as though this is a reaction to the farmers market proposing this space. And it was not brought forward just because and now we hear that it's, there's a new thing that's going in the proposal of the cultural significance of the park, which I don't know what that is, but I would be happy to read this on Thursday. But I do feel as though the public commenter had a point in terms of, trying to sort of react to some proposals and developments. And what I want to say about that is the materials we were given from Mr. Wilgen. The story of this park, to me, is a park that has evolved and grown with the city. And, a band shell was put in, and a pool was put in, and that train. And I just sort of feel like I read a really powerful op-ed a couple years ago, and it was just about we live in a city, not a museum. And I want to make sure that, who knew about pickleball 30 years ago? What if there's a place that kids could be, joining an activity in, community in a spot in that park? And I understand Lynn's point very much that it doesn't stop things, but I work in the Carnegie Building. The historic designation is not always our friend, and I just want to make sure that we are doing this. We don't know what the future holds, and I don't want to do something in reaction to, another organization having looked at the space.
Well, we don't really need to do anything.
That's a good point, too.
We can.
I think you're right to note, I agree. We don't have to do anything, and I don't know that we should, but I do feel like it should be noted that I think you're right, it is reactionary, but I think it's because it was a little bit of a blindside to feel like something kind of unexpected, undiscussed, and I know could take away park space. And I think it's so thought-provoking to think about this museum versus community idea. And also, I think we do have a responsibility to be protective of open, green space for many reasons. So I think it's just more complicated than simply a reaction. I think it's made me think about, what is the protections for keeping open, green space that has value? Mm-hmm. If at any time somebody can decide a different use for it. That was jarring for me.
No, I hear that.
And I agree with that. I think, excuse me, that the fact that I think that, in my opinion, that we all thought that parks were pretty safe, that they wouldn't be built upon or created, I don't want to call them parking places or spaces. My concern with South Park, particularly when I heard about South Park in that particular area, north of an area that on a given day you see kids out there with playing soccer or kickball or football or whatever. Now you take that away and put an event center in there that's going to be used on Saturday. for possibly the farmer's market. What's going to happen with the programming of the community building? I mean, in my opinion, there's no way that the farmer's market and youth basketball can coexist in that one parking lot. You got KU football games, you got St. John's. There's a lot of, and then all of a sudden to put that out there as possibly a space that they may utilize. That caught me. I mean, because I never thought in a million years that they would take away space from South Park, the park that was plotted, in 1857, that's open space. And so that's my concern. And then whether it be 7th Street and Watson Park or Central Park, again, we lose park space, we won't get it back.
Mm-hmm. Well, this all goes back to the idea that it has to be downtown.
Yep. I mean, you got the MSO at 11th and Haskell that's going to be wide open. You got the Tanger Mall. I mean, it's just, maybe there should be other options.
Well, and where's everybody going to park? I mean, community building's part of it because you got kids playing basketball and certainly don't want to push them out.
Right.
People going to the farmer's market. But, I mean, the only other place is over by the judicial law building. So you got everybody jumping across Mass.
If I could steer the conversation back to the item
Yeah.
on the agenda, because, no, I think it is good conversation, but we've had that conversation last week with the farmers market folks. So if we could go back to the nomination, and I don't know if Taylor or Lisa have comments at all too.
Lisa has her hand up.
Well, we don't have to do anything.
No, you don't, but I didn't know if they had comments.
It looks like Lisa's hand's up.
I just wanted to, I know we're not talking about the farmer's market, but I did want to share information that I have that I spoke with the development director of the farmer's market after last month's meeting. And I would say and this is just informational for the board, that the presentation and the presenter was not necessarily representing the farmers market as well as could have been, and that the downtown as the exclusive location for it is not actually necessarily true. So I just wanted to share that. Also, about the action for Watson Park, I agree. I think that at least in the moment, we should just let it sit. We don't need to do anything.
All right, are we ready to move on in the agenda?
All right.
All right, thank you, everybody. We are up.
Thank you, Lynn.
We are up to board items. I think this has a place for John. Do you have any updates for us?
Yeah, this is the North Lawrence Court Committee. This has been very, very interesting because I don't think anybody thought that as many people would be interested and involved as it's turned out to be. And the really so many interesting things about it is one of which is so many of the people who have been involved don't live in North Lawrence. I mean, it's really over half of the people don't live in there, and it's like, I'm not sure why of the interest, but nevertheless, and boy, lots of people at the events and so on. But the whole thing boils down to, and this was part of it just sort of was pretty obvious after a while, is that Lee knows this more well, there's a culture, there's a North Lawrence culture, and it's this, I don't know how to describe it, but when you drive through North Lawrence, I mean, you can see it and you can feel it, and I love to go down there and just drive around and walk down the streets. There's no sidewalks and all this. Boy, that's the old days for sure. But just juxtaposed against that is those residents wanting amenities that, in my mind, are only associated with large population areas, like a market. You know, I mean, that takes some people. So it seems to me, that's the tension that this group is having to, in my mind, having to deal with. What came out of this, we were in one of the meetings to look at the survey results and so on, and it was in the library, one of the meeting rooms in the library. It was just packed. I mean, it was a lot of people there, and some of the questions were really interesting. Like Nancy Thellman was there, and Nancy is a former county commissioner, and the boundaries go beyond the city of Lawrence, and she asked why no county member had been, appointed to this group. Well, it turns out that, I think I have this right, that this study was initiated by the Municipal Services Unit of the city. And so Nancy asked, is this going to be integrated into the city's comprehensive plan? And that's not clear. It's not clear at all. So it's kind of, for me, it's kind of up in the air. I'm not sure where exactly it's headed, but the consultants they thought they had allocated enough time for the meeting, but nope, we needed more time. So we'll see where it goes.
Thank you, John. Thanks for your service on that. Are there other items anybody would like to raise? I just wanted to mention that the field, or the new turf out at Sports Pavilion looks really sharp.
Great.
I know that was hard work and it looks amazing.
Had a lot of positive comments.
And the only old agenda item was the item number 3, which we just got done with on the agenda. Yeah.
Shall we move to reports?
Yeah.
All right, great. Mark, you're up.
I really don't have a lot to report. We get these free days in the middle of the winter where everybody's in the parks, so we start to get a lot of people calling us going, hey, the restrooms aren't open, so the trash hasn't been empty. It's like, it was snowing last week, remember? But that also benefits our staff, because I saw like our landscape staff out cleaning out beds, and it really gives us an opportunity to catch little things that helps us get ahead of spring. So I don't have other reports than that, but we're busy.
My turn. You're next. I don't have a lot to report either. The Cultural Arts Commission meets Wednesday night this week, and they're going to get the same presentation that Corey gave tonight and talk about community arts grants and the new mural for the parking garage next to the library, which is exciting. We have 3 finalists who've done proposals, which will be interesting. Won't be easy for the Art Commission to decide.
What about the sculpture theme, the soccer sculpture theme?
6 artists were selected for that, and I've got them in process with their agreements, and so they're working on their projects right now.
So when are those projects supposed to be done then?
I think we're shooting for May for some sort of initial opening, and then of course it'll be up through the World Cup at that point too. We have to figure out there's a lot of moving parts to that, but yeah, I'm excited. Some really great proposals on that.
Okay. I'm going to combine the recreation and the director's report. And I'm going to take this time each month to review the monthly membership report. And so as we talked about over the last few months, the City Commission has asked us to provide a monthly update. And so we will be submitting that on the second Tuesday of every month. which gives us time to finish the month, compile the data, and then get the report submitted. And so this meeting will fall the day before each one of those meetings. And so the information will be posted on the City Commission agenda, as it always does the Thursday prior. So you will be able to review that, and then I will plan to share and discuss it during my director's report, if that works for you all. So if you were not able to read it yet, in the first month of January, we sold 2,542 total memberships, and that is a combination of monthly and annual, and it includes adult, senior, and household. We also have reported a total of 126 qualified access memberships. And then we're also tracking the youth memberships. Even though they're free, we're still giving an actual membership and an access card to youth, ages 17 and under. And so we currently have 442 youth signed up in the system. And the visitation data is, we also will be reporting that. And so the total visitation, which is scanned access cards, was, and this is not unique, it's total scans, so it could be the same person over and over each day. Total for January was 17,138 visitors. We did run some numbers, some comparison to last year, January of 2025. And the number last year was 17,388. And again, we're definitely going to be more accurate moving forward with our visitation scans in 2026. But that just gives you kind of a quick comparison of what that looks like. So we're about the same total memberships. The numbers per facility are a little bit different. So I will point out that the community building total visitation for this year in January was 1,261. And last year in 2025, again, knowing that we didn't scan as diligently as we should have, but the number from last year was 636. So that number is quite higher for the community building this year. And East Lawrence Center was a lot lower last year than it is this year. So 918 visitors at East Lawrence Center this year, and last year I think it was in the 100s. It was like 103 or something like that. So it dramatically increased for the community building and East Lawrence Center, and then Holcomb and SPL are about the same. Numbers are pretty close to where they were last year. So it will be interesting. Again, now that we're tracking this, we're going to be monitoring this each month. It'll be interesting to see the differences and where people are going and which facilities are getting the most visitations. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, current progress towards our revenue projection for the month of January is 182,279. So again, many of these, or much of this is, annual memberships. A lot of people are going to buy those in January. Then the monthly memberships will collect each month. And so, again, our revenue estimate, it's hard to project, but we feel like we're off to a good start, and we feel happy with where we're at with the numbers, and so we're hoping to continue to increase more annual memberships sold throughout the year, as well as increasing our monthly memberships. With that, I'll take any questions.
Lindsay, I forgot, if I buy a membership in September, is it prorated and then I renew it again in January?
No, it'll go from September to September.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
It better.
Except those people that bought them in December, because it started on January 5th this year.
It is effective January through, yeah.
Okay.
The youth membership, can you say a little bit about how that works? Because that kind of seems low, given youth are free, right?
That's just how many we have signed up at this point. So it just takes, just a few minutes for them to, we need a parent signature for the paperwork, so many of them can get the form, bring it back, get the information that we need to get them in the system.
So they might still be going into the rec center or wherever, they just don't.
Typically, we'll let them in the first day they come and then give them the form on their way out. And the next time they come back, they need to have the form with them, and we just need to work with the parents to get them signed up in the system.
Okay.
My thought is you're probably going to see a bigger spike in that come May when school's out.
Yeah.
That's what I would probably assess.
And the qualified access, am I recalling, I think the goal was 300?
Yeah, that was our estimate, just based on, a percentage. We assumed it would be maybe about 10% of the population, so. But yeah, so currently we have 126 signed up for the qualified access.
Thank you. Any other questions for Lindsay? Or you might have more reporting.
That was it for today. I figured this would be our.
Unrelated question.
Sure.
It has to do with, LMH used to have that big mural, at the sports complex. And there's nothing there around the track now. That big wall is, have you guys tried to sell it?
So a couple things. We renewed our sponsorship with LMH last year in May and signed a new 5-year agreement, and they requested to take those signs and graphics down.
Oh.
They were old and outdated, and it's not part of their current brand. So they renewed with new signage that you'll see in different areas of the facility. And so part of we haven't specifically set out a sponsorship plan for that area of the track, but we do have sponsorships available at SPL for banners, signs. You'll see pop-up signs, the plaques. We do have a program right now. This is something that we need to work on to expand once we start, increasing our sponsorship opportunities.
Really looking forward to seeing my big
I didn't see Taylor and Lisa. They must have dropped off, so I
Okay.
don't know.
Future agenda items, it looks like next month could have some.
Yeah. We were going to have urine February.
Yeah, and we'll meet either tomorrow or sometime this week. We're going to meet again. I'll ask the group. I don't know that they're ready to give any sort of
Okay, that's
update or
fine.
presentation. I mean, we're getting very close as far as doing the application, the funding for the application, as we've reached that goal, but then applying for it and putting the letter together and all that stuff. So
You mean
I think
change that
they
to
want to wait.
TBA or?
Yeah,
Okay.
TBA.
We'll
And I'll
see
get
that.
back with you on that one.
Okay, I know you will.
Andrew is ready to give that presentation.
And then will you be ready for soccer
I can in March.
or football?
Yeah, football, yeah. Sure.
Okay. And then anything anybody wants to add at this time? Okay.
Thank you. We do have in the calendar notes that there's the documentary screening on the 27th at 6:30, and our next meeting will be a month from today, March 9th. Oh my gosh. That takes us to the end of our agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.